Have you ever wondered why are orcas called killer whales? The name killer whale comes from orcas' predatory behavior on other whales, not because of attacks on humans, as the only attacks on humans have only occurred in captivity. In 2013, my parents put on a documentary called Blackfish. As an 11-year-old, I had watched the horrors of SeaWorld unravel on our living room television. The documentary showed the gruesome fate of orcas who were captured for human entertainment and profit, and how the confinement and torture led to the most famous attacks that only occurred within captivity. My name is Heaven Guillory, and the terrors orcas go through in captivity is horrendous in the topic of my video essay. So what are orcas? Orcas, more commonly referred to as killer whales, are the largest members of the dolphin family. They are recognizable by the white spots by their underbelly and eyes and live 50 to 90 years in the wild. In the wild, they can be found in all oceans, but more so in colder climates. Orcas, similarly to most mammals in the dolphin family, are extremely intelligent and sociable within their pods. As you can see, in the wild, they are playful, goofy creatures when they have the physical space as well as emotional space to do so. So how smart are orcas? Extremely. With a 15-pound brain, orcas are capable of communication, emotions, and can even coordinate hunting attacks, as can be seen in the video clip. Realizing the original ice floe was too large, the group coordinated an attack on the floe to isolate the seal. When evolving millions of years ago, according to the Whale and Dolphin Observatory, the different ecotypes of orcas created separate dialects and vocal cues for their pods and began to prey on separate food sources to eliminate interspecies competition and move to different parts of the world. These whales are so intelligent that they migrate, which is why the captive life is so draining for them mentally and physically. The origin of orca captivity began in 1961 for a social experiment which mimicked the socialization of their wild lives. As of now, there have been at least 166 orcas recorded being stolen from the wild and put into captivity. Of this number, 130 of these are dead, which is roughly 78%, excluding stillborn or miscarried calves. Of the orcas in captivity, National Geographic states that the very limited number of them to live past the age of 30 have all been wild caught, and no captive-born orca has reached this age. So why is orca captivity so bad? Besides what they already commented on destruction to their physical lifespans, captive orcas have extremely higher rates of mental illnesses, including stress, anxiety, and depression. National Geographic quotes marine mammal scientist Naomi Rose in their article explaining that orcas, whether wild-born or captive-bred, cannot thrive in captivity. Like I said before, these orcas are the largest of their family. Their top fin alone is as tall as most grown men, and they can weigh anywhere from 8,000 pounds to 16,000 pounds. So to have bodies used to swimming around 40 miles a day on average, confined to a tank maybe 150 feet wide, is similar to putting an athlete who runs miles and miles at top speeds a day confined to a hallway with the slowest walkers in school imaginable. Besides for physical confinement, orcas are also confined mentally within these tanks. Anxiety from being closed in the dark, modules that barely give them enough room to go back and forth for hours at a time, as well as depression from being isolated and taken away from their families, are just a few of the symptoms of orca captivity. Their anxiety gets so extreme that the whales grind their teeth on the concrete walls to the point of nerve exposure. The animals are given barely any enrichment to stimulate their very active minds and bodies. Another factor you can tend to see in captive orcas is dorsal fin collapse, as you can see in Telecom, who is the focus of my presentation and the film Blackfish. His life was miserable, and he was extorted horribly. He alone was forced to be the biological father of more than half of SeaWorld's orcas, and 11 of his children died before he did at 33. Tilikum had been in captivity since he was 2, and around 8 years old in Canada, he had drowned a trainer along with 2 of his tank mates. Despite this incident, he was still kept for entertainment and sent to SeaWorld Orlando. Poor Tilikum was a victim of his environment and of neglect repeatedly. After his first attack, it should have been made clear how destructive captivity is to not only Tilikum but all orcas. Yet years later, a man named Daniel Dukes had broken into Tilikum's nighttime enclosure. While the events that led to his death aren't clear and will not be released to the public, it is suggested that he attempted to assault Tilikum that night. In 2010, Tilikum again retaliated against his captors and in a show killed trainer Don Brancho. Jason Herbo wrote in his book, Fear of the Animal Planet, The History of Animal Resistance, on the victims of not only Tilikum, but those of other orcas, stating that the point is that captive animals have used their intelligence, ingenuity, and tenacity to overcome the situations and obstacles. Their actions have had intent and purpose. Since Don's death, there was a change. Humans have not been allowed into the tanks of orcas since this incident, and Tilikum did this. He had grabbed Dawn by her hair, arm, or shoulder and yanked her into the tank during a show titled Dining with Shamu, named after another tortured orca who died at 10 years old in SeaWorld's care. He violently jerked Brancho and her body, which resulted in scalping her, dislocating her knee, ear, and arm, and snapping her spinal cord and ribs. Tilikum, after this event, was punished for breaking down and forced into a back pool into even more isolation. He performed again 13 months after her murder as a publicity stunt. His last years after were filled with a lung disease and reports of him floating listlessly, waiting for his death, which came in 2017. Next time you see a SeaWorld advertisement or that of any aquatic park that is not built around conservation efforts, remember Tilikum and the hundreds of other orcas I did not name. Their stories are no different, if not worse, than that of animals who are victims of trophy hunters in the Sahara. Orcas should be as free as our minds are today. Thank you.